Okay, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive today on Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's quite a journey he's had to the Nigerian presidency.
It really is. And we're using these sources you've got here to kind of unpack that. He's definitely a central figure, sometimes polarizing in African politics.
For sure. So our goal here is really to cut through some of the noise,
Yes.
Look at the strategy, the controversies, because there are quite a few, and his leadership impact based on this material.
Exactly. Think of it as your shortcut to getting a handle on him. We'll touch on his beginnings, even that Chicago connection, the democracy fight.
Right. Then Lagos governor building that Godfather reputation, and the presidency itself, the challenges now.
So let's start maybe with the early days. Education in the U.S., Chicago specifically, Richard J. Daley College, then Chicago State University, graduated summa cum laude in accounting.
And he worked at places like Deloitte, right? So that corporate financial background seems pretty foundational for him.
It does. You see it later in Lagos. But even that Chicago time, well, it wasn't without issues. Those questions about his credentials, they keep popping up.
Yeah, the sources mentioned that debate resurfacing over the years. It's like a recurring theme almost.
It really is. Decades, actually. And it sort of highlights bigger questions, about trust and vetting in Nigerian politics.
Okay, fast forward a bit. The 90s, he was in the Senate briefly, then the 93 election annulment, Abacha's rule. Things got really intense.
And that's when he steps up as a key player in ADECO, the pro-democracy movement.
Fighting against military rule.
Yes, and it wasn't easy. He faced arrests, serious risks, eventually forced into exile in 94.
So while he was in exile,
He was lobbying internationally, which, wasn't just about staying afloat. It honed those networking skills, built this narrative of him as a democracy advocate. That was crucial when he came back.
and he comes back to run for governor of Lagos in 99, wins 2 terms. This seems like where he really built his blueprint.
Absolutely. His financial background really came into play here. Lagos depended heavily on federal money back then.
Right.
So he pushes hard to boost Lagos's own revenue, the IGR internal generated revenue, tax reforms, better collection.
Tackling things like ghost workers, too. I remember reading that. People on the payroll who didn't exist.
Exactly. Cutting waste. It gave Lagos more financial freedom, showed he could manage, major administrative reforms.
But it wasn't just about administration, was it? He was building a power base simultaneously.
Oh, definitely. That's where the Godfather label really takes hold after his governorship.
What does that actually mean in practice? How did he do it?
Well, the sources describe it as strategic influence building. A massive patron-client network, essentially.
Sponsoring candidates, you mean?
Yes, meticulously. Across states, not just Lagos.
Right.
Supporting them, ensuring loyalty through, resources and backing.
And then the APC formation in 2013.
Instrumental. Bringing different groups together, and then, of course, helping Buhari win the presidency twice. That cemented him as the ultimate kingmaker figure.
So he went from Lagos kingmaker to national kingmaker. Playing the long game.
Absolutely. You see that patience, that strategy, the whole Emmy Loken, it's my turn declaration before his own run fits that pattern.
And now he is president. No longer pulling strings from behind, but right in the center.
Right in the hot seat. And facing, immense challenges. His presidency started with that disputed election win and then bam, straight into major economic reforms. Tinubunomics.
Yeah, the fuel subsidy removal. Floating the Naira. Bold moves. Necessary, some argue.
Necessary, perhaps, but the sources are clear. The immediate human cost has been incredibly high.
Soaring inflation, cost of living. I saw that poll mentioned May 2025. Over 60% felt the reforms made their lives worse.
That's the core tension, isn't it? Reforms that might be economically rational but cause immediate widespread pain. The government points to, increased foreign investment, some positive signs.
But the daily reality for many is tough.
It is, and that's the challenge. Implementing tough policies while managing the social fallout, the suffering, and trying to keep public trust.
And it's not just the economy. What other hurdles do the sources highlight?
Insecurity is still a massive issue. Those Amnesty International reports mentioned, thousands killed in attacks. A real sense that the state isn't protecting people effectively enough.
And concerns about governance style, too.
Yeah, allegations of repression against critics. An increasingly authoritarian feel, according to some reports mentioned.
And then there's the international front.
He's trying to project Nigerian influence with his 40s doctrine, democracy, development, demography, diaspora. But even that's hit bumps, like the whole Niger intervention stance after the coup.
Right, that caused ripples domestically and regionally, with countries leaving ECOWAS.
Exactly. It shows the complexities he's navigating, both at home and abroad.
Okay, so we've tracked him. Student, exile, the Lagos transformation, the strategic Godfather years, and now president dealing with huge economic pain and public dissatisfaction.
Yeah, the sources paint this picture of strategic brilliance, incredible resilience, this knack for cultivating influence, but also dogged by controversy, and now facing the harsh realities of governing under immense strain.
Understanding that whole arc, Lagos, the power network, the long game, now the presidency's immediate impact, it gives you real insight into Nigerian politics, power, and leadership challenges.
Definitely. It's about governance, economics, public welfare, all tangled up in a really diverse, complex nation.
So here's something provocative for you, the listener, to think about. We see this figure defined by strategy, by resilience. Facing these huge challenges now as president, will his legacy ultimately hinge on pushing through these painful but potentially necessary reforms? Or will it depend more on his ability to actually connect those policies to the daily lives, the well-being of Nigerians, to bridge that gap?
What does that whole situation tell us about leadership, really, especially when you're navigating such deep, fundamental national crises? It's a tough question.